Hey everybody, this is Gabe, and if I hated you, you would know. Welcome to the episode. So last week I felt like was a bit of a down week, right? Like I talked about some pretty heavy things or things that I thought were pretty heavy. I had a pretty deep conversation with a vet, right? So this week I just wanted to do something that was a little more lighthearted because, honestly, who doesn't need something a little positive in their life right now, right? So, with that, I'm going to rely on one of the goofiest tropes, I think, in YouTube, but one that I find myself watching very, very often. So here are the top 10 bands that give me a lot of ton and a bunch of fucking hope right now. Lots of fucking hope. Number 10, XCOMM. So, I put XCOMM at number 10 because I mentioned them in the first episode too. It's like one of the first kind of just things that I talked about. These guys are from Los Angeles. They're very young. They range in age from 20 to 14, with the youngest, I believe, is the drummer, who I believe is also the son of Scott Ian from Anthrax. Again, I should caveat, as I do with every episode, that if I make a mistake, just correct me. Telling me I'm stupid is not a correction. Giving me the right information is. So, please, and thank you. I appreciate it. But past that, there's another band from the UK called Gallows. These guys aren't from the UK, they're from Los Angeles, but there's a band from the UK called Gallows, whose singer Frank Carter went on to have a band called Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, and Gallows went on with a different singer to be an equally cool band, just in a very different way, right? But the energy that those first few Gallows albums gave, especially going into Great Britain, of just that punch of vocalist, that's what XCOMM delivers, over and over and over again. Every song has been really just kind of that really intense punk feel, which I love, right? It's the kind of music that I grew up listening to. It's definitely my wheelhouse, and we'll talk a little bit about breaking out of those over time for me, but yeah, this is right up my alley. XCOMM is super great. The video that you just saw was a clip from their video for Fake ID, which I think is really cool because it also shows a pretty interesting artistic idea where they're using their fake IDs to dress up as grannies and steal all this liquor, right? And when they get the liquor, when they're done with it, they don't go and drink it. They just go hang out, right? And it's almost like a commentary on we don't want the distraction, we want the experience kind of metaphor. And whether that's on purpose or not, the art dweeb in me really appreciates it. So giving me an extra layer of shit to think about in a music video, I'm always a fan of. So anyway, on to number 9.
White supremacists, unprincipled ego nihilists. You claim to believe in something true. Rebranded hate, but it's nothing new. I will gladly.
Number 9. So number 9 is Dead Pioneers. This is a band kind of fronted, and it feels like the artistic direction comes from an artist from Denver named Greg Deal. Greg is a very accomplished visual and performance artist. He creates really impactful pieces of of art to interact with that focus the mind on the tragic history of Native people in the United States, like the genocide perpetuated by our government, and kind of historically what that means. How do we engage with it? How do we find a way forward for everybody, while also acknowledging just the absolute, like, garbage, the absolute filth that this country put the people that were here for thousands of years already through, right? Just, I mean, it's evil, right? In a systemic way. I have a hard time, like, really encapsulating evil, right? But that is definitely up there. So, Dead Pioneers is all about that, right? So, like, pointing that finger, showing that hypocrisy, like painting a very clear visual and emotional image of the Native perspective in the United States, right? So really thinking about what that's saying and how it's saying it gives me so much hope, right? Because at its heart, like, punk is about two things, right? It's about this rebellious spirit, like this pushing away, like, the old ways and embracing new ways. But it's also very much about art, right? Like, in its origins, punk is an artistic movement, right? Especially in the United States, those early bands that we think of as kind of the proto-punk bands like New York Dolls or Blondie or the Talking Heads, those guys were all, like, art rock, glam rock, merging with punk into, like, this kind of similar milieu where you end up with this really powerful intersection of different people, right? And music can really create that. So the video that you saw on here, Nazi Teeth, it also features, I want to make sure I say her name right, Stephanie Byrne from the band Cheap Perfume, whose song It's Always Okay to Punch a Nazi really tickles my fancy, right? So that's bonus band, but also, like, that's that kind of engaging, like, and provocative thought to, like, create, like, actual movement forward, right? Like, we shouldn't still be having arguments about whether or not it's okay to, like, be a Nazi, because it's just not, right? But we do need to engage our society, like, on this, and, like, that is what Dead Pioneers is all about, is, like, just this direct, full frontal look at this thing that has been caused by the people that still run this country, right? And that's powerful, and that's awesome, and it fills me with things that fill me with the fire to kind of keep doing these sorts of things, to keep creating, like, words and having dialogue and trying to push through, as opposed to just standing still and being like, nag, nag, nag. Like, bands like this really spark that inside of me. So, all right. Also, I should mention that none of the order of this means anything, right? It's just the 10 bands. I just wanted to do a countdown because it's fun. On to number 8.
Woke up in the morning and I smelled the fresh pollution. Television never tried to show my execution.
Said, who's this? Just a kid from the neighborhood. I've been trying to start a revolution for the greater good.
It's the revolution coming, marching on your street. Always use your voice for the ones who cannot speak.
It's the ones who go to war from the belly of the beast. And I'm coming from the underground, you hear it in my speech.
Leave us speechless.
From the second that I speak this.
Please believe this.
Give the youth the truth, they really need this.
All right, so number 8 is a band called The Neighborhood Kids. You just saw their video. Betty Boom, or part of it. So they're from San Diego, California. They met during COVID. My understanding is that both of them, that the singers are a couple, and that they basically just started working with each other, creating rhymes, and it turned into this, right? So, like, in a world where there is no Rage Against the Machine, but you're feeling deep inside of yourself, man, I really wish there was a Rage Against the Machine. There is instead the Neighborhood Kids, which are, in my opinion, better, right? Because they're singing about this moment, right? They're not singing about 1995. Like, while I love Rage and they filled me with a lot of information and knowledge that I was able to like harness for myself, like over time, it's really important to understand that like those messages are in fact dated. There's ideas in there that haven't moved forward. They're like in this bubble, right? And if we hold like our ideas like so precious that we can't like move forward, we can't embrace like a new moment, we can't like look into today and the future and what we can do to engage now, then we do run the risk of being like that stagnant old person that has no real voice in the world, right? Like, I don't need to take over to help things, but I should be directing what I'm helping at something for today, right? There are issues that may have been important to me 20 years ago that aren't nearly as important now, right? Not because they're of less importance to me, but because they're of less importance to society, right? So being able to look at like younger bands like this and say, okay, like what are they pointing their energy at? I should be looking in that direction too. Yeah, tons of fucking hope. There you go. Anyway, loving it, right? So, moving on to number 7, Finger Guns.
Antes de que empiece la fiesta, quiero que se sepa que uno de nosotros votó por Trump. No sé quién fue, pero llegó el sobre y dice el apellido, pero el nombre no. Ahí va la tía con pelos de lote que crió puros hijos que malcriados son. El primo traumado con ser americano.
Number 7. Yeah. I don't know why this is so entertaining to me today. Anyway, it's Snow the Product. So Snow the Product is from Southern California. It says she was born in San Jose, California. I don't want to specifically say like where she, like her city, because I know that can be a point of contention for some people. Like being misrepresented, like where you're from, would really suck. I would hate that. But this is probably like the biggest name on this list as far as I know. Like I'm not really always super clued into like what's popular. So, but I would say Snow is probably the biggest name that is on this particular list today. But what I really like about her is a few things. Is incredibly nuanced individual, right? She's a mom, she's queer, she's Latina, she's awesome at hip hop, right? Like, so there's this nuance to like kind of her day-to-day life that I think we tend to forget artists can have, right? And I think one of the things that she's really, really great at latching onto is pointing at the humor in the reality of stereotypes, especially about like Latino culture, right? Especially, so the video that you saw for Sabado is like this story of somebody gets a postcard or like a piece of mail from the Trump organization and it has their last name on it, but not their first name. So she's trying to figure out who the letter is to, and she's pointing fingers at people based on like these stereotypical tropes that she has of each individual. And I think it's funny. It's a humor that's fun to latch onto a lot of the time because we can see when we're being stereotypes, right? And we can laugh about it sometimes and go, okay, like what can I do to be better, right? And there's this moment in the song where it talks about like air out your dirty laundry, like effectively clean up your side of the street, right? Like, take care of yourself, like, be a better person. And that, like, feels like the impetus of the whole song is to say, okay, like, look, we all fall into these, like, weird stereotypes sometimes, but we can make an effort to be better. Let's just come clean. Let's just be honest with each other. Let's just stop trying to pretend like we're somebody that we're not, right? And I think that's a really powerful statement to make, like in any community, right? Like pretending to be your own person. or pretending to be someone than your own person is always like, is always cruel to yourself, right? Because all you're doing is trying to play a weird game that there's not really a winner to. It's just that you get to be somebody that you're not. I don't know. It's such a dumb thing to think about. And I'll talk a little bit more about being yourself in a little bit, but I just think that I think there's a ton of hope in pointing at yourself and laughing, right? Like being able to say, okay, like these are the things that I'm super stupid about. These are the things that I could be better about. And you know what? These are the things that we could all be better about. And that starts with just coming clean, right? I don't know. I love this song. I love her music, and yeah, even though I am not anywhere close to fluent in Spanish, I do like go out of my way to like translate what she's saying so that I can try to enjoy it at a, higher level. And I'm getting slowly better and better at understanding Spanish, but I'm still way too nervous to practice it out loud. So anyway, moving on. Number 6, I'm pretty sure.
As close as I can take. And the colors are smeared, turning breath into frost as the ground falls in to a pillar of smoke at the cross of God's replay. There's no hands left.
Okay, welcome back. I turned the brightness up on my monitor, so now I can see that it looks all right. So anyway, number 6, Finger Guns. Model Actriz is, I'm like 99% sure that's how the name is pronounced. That's how Stephen Colbert pronounced it when they performed on his show. I don't know that that's really a measure of bigness right now, because Stephen Colbert is definitely lashing out at his network and putting a lot of pretty cool things on lately. But Model Actriz is a band. They were formed in Boston in 2016, but they're now based out of New York City. So when I think about, like, when I kind of going back to Dead Pioneers and like the kind of confluence of like art and punk, there is like, in me, there's like a really like active notion that a lot of punk is very performance art focused, right? So like you take a group like Psychic TV, like Genesis Orage's stuff, or you take like a group like the Dead Kennedys, I think is a really, really good example, right? Where there's like these like cut-ins of like skits and things like that wasn't necessarily like super typical, or a band like Flipper where they were like intentionally like playing slow and weird to like annoy the audience, right? And I think even in a lot of ways, like guys like G.G. Allen and stuff, like he definitely had mental health issues on top of it, but I think he saw his life as kind of like a full-time performance in a lot of ways. I don't know, like I would, that's something that I've always wanted to explore further, but finding the books and movies and stuff is a little on the pricey side sometimes. But I don't know, I think about that. But when I think about Model Actriz, like this notion of like music not just as like the songs and like the band on stage, but also like the videos as like pieces of like film and art. Like, I think there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with that. And I think that this band like is really nailing a lot of that, right? Creating like these really unique spaces and like moments and visual, like, gripping visual aesthetic scenes, right? Like, I don't know. It's really, really phenomenal and beautiful, and I love it. I love when music videos lean into film more heavily than just like, oh, flashy dance routine or whatever, live music show. Not that those videos are bad, and they definitely serve their purpose, but when a video becomes more like a short film, like that's always super intriguing to me. And Model Actress does that a lot. And on top of it, their music is incredible and their performances are incredible. And if I really enjoy a lot of post-punk stuff, going from like Fugazi forward until you're looking at bands like Foals was like that first Foals album is really cool, or like, Proto Martyr, or even like in some ways bands like Viagra Boys and stuff like that. But this is like leaning way more heavily into like the artistic side of that in a way that's incredibly engaging and I absolutely love. So anyway, on to number 5.
And I'm a fresh linen suit that you adore, a playboy that you label a whore. I'm provocative and keen to fill my pockets with those swords, but if you're lucky I can fill them up with something more. I'll come clean and wipe your face along the floor. Give me a chance and I'll come through the back door. I'm a hectic.
All right, so number 5 is the first band from somewhere else, from Bristol, UK. It's My First Time. So My First Time has like this dance punk, electric punk like feel to it. Like in some ways kind of like early LCD sound system, where it's just like this bright, vibrant, energetic, amazing, right? And Bristol also gave birth to Idols, who's one of my favorite, I guess, like punk, post-punk bands. My brain, for some reason, feels like this real desperate need to like categorize music, and that's because I am a product of my generation, where like you defined yourself based on what genre of music you listen to. In a lot of cases, like I don't think that's true for everybody, but for a lot of people it was really true. Like to the point where there was like animosity between different genres of music. Like if you were a metal dude, you hated hip hop, and kind of vice versa for a really long time. And that's like a strange, weird thing of like to tribalize, right? But as a consequence, like my brain likes to like parse out these categories. So like, My First Time doesn't really fit cleanly like in any of those, other than it's kind of punky, it's really bright, it's really electric, and the way it's presented and the lyrical content is like very like gripping, right? So it's one of those. There's so much music out there that like I would never experience if I didn't like constantly try to look for music, right? And I think that also is a little bit of growing up in a generation where you were kind of trying to always find the new thing because you wanted to be the first person in, like on the ground floor of whatever band. And like, while that is a dumb reason to like actively pursue music, to be like I heard it first, it also like has always motivated me to like want to find new music, right? And that excitement when you find a new band that, triggers a response where you're like, oh, I really like this music, so I really might enjoy this because of this single, and then you dive deeper and you find something new that you like. I love that. I love that it's like ever evolving, and music is constantly like being created like all over the world and in all sorts of different ways. And like My First Time really, I feel like encapsulates that, where it's like a band I never would have thought to even engage with probably in the past, especially, middle school, high school, when I was like a metal dude, and then a punk, and then, fuck you guys for XYZ, this is something cool, right? This is something different and new that, while not like incredibly unique, I never would have engaged with, 25 years ago. And it's awesome to be able to just evolve my taste with music, I guess. I don't know. It's fun. I love it. It gives me hope that I'll find something new. There you go. Yeah. Moving on. Bow, bow, bow.
course I'm seeing it, sorry. Leave me orange, man, let me enjoy my Macaulay. That hobo look like Jesus, but you spit on his wit. You treat your Bible like a weapon, you ain't reading that shit. Can't believe we let the whole world get turned by Hank Hill, looking motherfuckers. Homies on the block till the red corn suffers. Trade the white sheets for the blue life colors. Move to the land, been shedded. Pinstripe fruitless udders. Wind still sings by...
All right, so number 4 is Genesis Owusu. I am hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly. I definitely will take any kind of advice on how to say any name correctly, but most of the band names haven't been like personal names, and I think it feels weird if you mispronounce like an actual person's name as opposed to like just their band's name. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there. But he is a Ghanaian Australian. His definition, like kind of online, is a rapper, but he seems to be like a lot more than that, right? He definitely is an activist. He's definitely extremely outspoken. He definitely is engaging lyrically with like a different mindset than a lot of like what you would consider just like average rapper. Like, I don't know. It just seems so much, I guess so limiting to like kind of the music that he's making. Not so much like the content of it, because rap can be about literally anything, but like the scope of like the music he's making seems a little bit broader than just like rap, right? Which again is me being dumb and categorical when it comes to music. But one of the things that I think is really awesome is that he's willing to like engage with like really difficult subjects in a really bold and like forward facing way that like I think is very reminiscent, especially of like 90s like gangster rap, where they're like pointing at like problems that are happening like in their neighborhoods, like issues that they're having. And sure, some of it may be aggrandizement on some level, but there definitely were very serious issues that like rap was unafraid to confront, like in the 90s, right? In a way that the music I was listening to definitely wasn't doing, right? With rare exceptions, like punk was outwardly antagonistic about the cops, but a lot of the times had very little to say about like race-based like prejudice and things like that. So not always, like, again, blanket statement, blah, blah, blah. But Genesis is creating like this really like vibrant and like aggressive and intense like version of like that driving, pushing forward of like messages and ideas and thoughts through his music in a way that I think is really pretty remarkable. In interviews, he's so soft-spoken and incredibly intelligent, and then you hear his music and it's just like a punch, right? Like he's not holding anything back, like he's saying it with his full chest, as they say, right? And it's so like invigorating, right? To like hear these ideas that like I've thought and embraced for a long time, but to hear somebody from literally the other side of the earth, like recognizing kind of some of the situations that we've created for ourselves and some of the potential like problems and solutions, right? And I love that. That gives me so much hope that like these messages are being pushed out from all sorts of different places to like help people engage, right? And like one of the biggest things that he talks about is like this engagement of his community, that the things that move us forward, like the things that will carry over like generation to generation, or even just like day to day, is the things that we do to like engage our community and to like help the broader base of us than like the individual. And I love that stuff. Like absolutely fills me full of hope. And yeah, it's good shit, as they say. So yeah, moving on to number 3, and this one is for a strange reason. Okay, number 3, Holy Ghost Tabernacle Choir. So this band from Savannah, Georgia, is on this list for kind of not existing anymore, right? And the reason I bring them up is because of the way that they broke up, right? They chose to dissolve as a band, and they made a statement that I think is really cool. Just make sure everything's still recording because it did something weird before. But, so, I just want to read this, right? So they talk about, we finished our first charity compilation, and we also made the decision that the Holy Ghost Tabernacle Choir is coming to an end. No Instagram stories or combative lamb goat articles, no big fallout, no one's fault, just an understanding of what we need as individuals and what that means for the project as a whole. Right? So, like, here's this moment where, like, a band feels free enough to say, we're going to break up and we're going to do it amicably. And I think that gives me a lot of hope for, like, independent music in general. So when I was growing up, like, being in a band, like, getting an album done, like, it was really, really difficult. Having access to, like, recording equipment wasn't as, like, easy as it is today, right? You typically had to pay someone to make an album as opposed to being able to, like, buy the things that you need, like, online fairly inexpensively to do it in your own home, right? So, like, I think that frees up a lot of independent musicians to say, like, look, it's okay if this band doesn't last forever because we can move on to do different things with just as much ease and just as much knowledge as we had before. Like, we're not really losing any momentum. We can go from thing to thing. We can see what life requires. We can pull back and push forward when we need to. And that kind of, like, artistic freedom, I think, is something that couldn't have existed within, like, the label system, especially back in the 90s and 2000s, where, you know, you had to produce an album at XYZ and it had to make this many sales for you to continue your contract, or you didn't have access to recording or the ability to distribute your music. And those barriers just don't really exist in the same way they did then. Finally, I also thought it was awesome that in the moment of, like, pulling apart, they talked about coming together, right? So they say, as the systems around us continue to slide further into oppression, into technocracy and apathy, do your part to continue fighting against it. Remain connected to your communities, carry those we've lost with you, and don't give up hope. Arm yourselves with a mind, maybe a couple other things as well, and understand the radical amount of empathy required to move forward and change this world for the better. We can make it happen hand in hand, arm in arm, and torch to every opposing body. Right? So, yeah. Right? Why shouldn't a moment where we say this band is ending, but what we've created can pull us even tighter together? Like, that's brilliant stuff, man. Like, that's how music can make us feel, right? This, like, deep connection with each other, this deep, like, fervor to, like, protect and uplift and entertain each other, right? I love it. Like, that gives me tons and tons of hope, right? So anyway, moving on. Number 2.
She hates when I listen to Blink with nice kid on the side of the street. She wants to change up everything about me. Her car costs more than my crib and her dad. That dude is a dick, and I don't want to ever be someone like him. No matter what I do, I'll never be like you. Happier insecure.
So, number 2 is Atlanta, Georgia's The Paradox, right? And these guys, I think, for me, stand out for, like, almost the opposite reason of, like, all of the other, like, bands on here, except for maybe, like, Snow. So, I like The Paradox precisely because they're such a throwback to, like, something else, right? Like, Snow is very, like, this is, like, Latino hip hop and it's its own thing, right? But, like, it definitely fits, like, a very particular mold of, like, genre, right? The Paradox does too. This is a pop punk band, and the fuck you, dad, I won't grow up attitude is something that I absolutely will embrace till the day I die. Like, look, my kids have talked back to me. My kids have been angry with me. And yeah, I definitely have had terrible parent reactions. I think there's one in the last video where I tell Cody, damn it, I'm trying to do an interview here. Right? But yeah, they have every right to be like, fuck you, dad. Just like I did when I was a kid. Hell yeah, dude. More of this. Fucking just absolutely crushing, like, what pop punk is. Like, it's going, I mean, look, the debate on the origins of punk or of pop punk can be endless, right? But thinking about bands like The Descendants, about like Green Day, about like MXPX, about like Blink-182, and this like teenage love interest, like parents get bent, I'm never growing up, fucking that shit basically dates back to the Beatles, right? Like, may pop punk never fucking die. I absolutely love the paradox. Like, what a great, just what a perfect encapsulation of everything that pop punk can be. All right, moving on to number 1.
Trans people represent some of the most robust spiritual leadership allowed.
I see the hatred in your face, it's just a lack of faith. God made me in an image, I can show you how to pray. Pray, pray, the word is not the faith. Deep now, was so long ago, straight away.
You ain't the shit, but my soul, cause you ain't know your own. Motherfucker, pastor, police, holy fuck, they made a clone. Do you never know? Do it, influence, of confusion.
Okay, so I said I didn't put these in any order, and I didn't. But, like, Damage, I think, is very special and very unique, right? And is a very interesting, like, artist, musician, person, like, just in general. I have not read tons of interviews or anything with her. I've mostly just interfaced with the music. So just from that alone, I'm like fully intrigued and want to dive in significantly deeper and like understand like the message even more fully, right? So bear with me when I talk about that. I have all the other bands I kind of looked up and dove into a little bit more. Damage, I have not, right? Because I think that I just want to talk about the music and what she's saying in the music. So, first interaction I had with Damage is a song called Put a Landlord in a Landfill. Fucking absolutely hilarious song that I think really encapsulates how I have always felt about having to pay rent. Right? Like this notion of, why am I giving you money for you to not fix anything? Oh, buddy, my dog's in a whine. So let me go help him. Hey, come on. Come here. Hey, you're okay. You can chill out. You can chill out. I know. You're all right, Loki. All right. Anyway, going forward, I've seen a few other songs of hers, like, you know, with other groups of people, like, you know, other musicians, and on her own. Then this song dropped that, you know, you saw the video of, In the Image of God, right? So, I love religions, right? Like, I don't love religion. I just love religions. Like, I like understanding them. I like studying them. I like basically striving to have a better understanding of my fellow human beings by understanding what they believe, and not what I have been told they believe, but like taking their beliefs at like face value. When somebody tells me this is like my deeply held XYZ belief, I believe them, right? Like, listen to what people are telling you. So I try to engage with that as much as possible. One of the things that I've seen in a lot of cultures, right, is this notion that what we would term transness, like what we would term like being transgender in like kind of the American like socio political, vernacular is deeply spiritual in other cultures, right? Like this being able to like touch both aspects of humanity in one person is highly valued in a lot of different cultures. It's also been highly discriminated against in other cultures. So like there's this weird like opposing force of like culture over time where sometimes there's even moments where two groups of people commingling have opposing viewpoints of what those people mean. Like on one side they're evil and on one side they're holy, right? And I think we're in a very similar time now, right? Where there's a segment of people that genuinely believe that transness is evil, right? That doesn't make sense to me. I find no logic in that, but I believe that they believe that, right? Do I think that leads them to very dangerous thoughts and behavior a lot of the time? Dangerous thoughts is kind of a loaded like statement, right? Thinking ideas is very rarely dangerous, but dangerous behaviors, I do think those notions that transness is evil leads to. And we see that statistically, that like violence is perpetuated at a very dense level against trans people, right? On the other side, this notion that transness is somehow holy, right? I don't believe in like a mystical God. I don't believe in a higher power or a divine creator or any of those things. I do believe that there are people that have more empathy and more ability to take in information and knowledge and what a lot of people would call wisdom, right? Which I feel like is best defined as taking like raw data and converting it into like meaning, right? And I think a lot of the times that's what religion is trying to do too, right? Take these events that don't make sense and give them meaning, right? The same way like an AI takes something that doesn't make sense and black boxes its way into a meaning, right? We do the same things. We make a lot of mental gymnastics, right? But if you have the ability to kind of access like more perspective, whether that be because you have physically, been in a male body, but mentally you understand yourself as female and you can see both sides of that equation, that does put you in a place, in my opinion, where you probably are a lot better at collating what is happening in the world around you into meaning, right? Because you've dug so deeply into yourself that you understand that you have, and I don't think every trans person is coming to this like weird enlightenment moment, but I think intrinsically just being and admitting and open to your transness exhibits a level of introspection that the vast majority of people don't have, right? And I think that opens people's minds, right? We're constantly rewiring our synapses into like how we think, right? If we do something over and over again, or we think about something over and over again, we are creating like these pathways. And if you're going deeper and further, right? Like you have to be creating more space, more connection, more openness. And I think there's so much of that exhibited in Damage's music, right? This notion that there is a deeper understanding that can be had by some, while at the same time that group of people is being tormented by others, right? And that's a really like tough and like deep philosophical well to like dig from, right? And Damage does. Like, sometimes their songs are just funny throwaway aggression. Put a landlord in a landfill. And like, deeply felt, I don't doubt for a second, right? But then In the Image of God is like a profound like look at, don't discount, don't dismiss like the spirit of people that literally are in struggle, in strife, in turmoil, just existing, right? Like, imagine like the resilience and wisdom that gives you. I don't know. It's incredible shit. Like, absolutely love it. Like, I mean, massive kudos to Damage, and like, just seeing the people that she's surrounding herself with, and the, you know, the musicians that are being brought along with it, is also fucking phenomenal to me. So hopefully much continued success. And I mean, I'm gonna start digging into interviews, because your music alone is inspiring. So I don't know why that went direct, but but yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that wraps it up. These are the 10 bands that give me a shitload of fucking hope and shit and stuff. So, there will be clips in this. I assume it will get copyright striked. I assume I will never make money on YouTube. So, but yeah, be right back. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Yeah, I think the lighting got better over the course of the video. Just, yeah, but it's besides the point, I guess. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I had talked about having my wife on last week, and we're definitely still going to sit down and do that. She felt very unprepared, and I don't want to make anything stressful for anybody that comes on to participate in the show. But, yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you lasted this long, I guess be sure you subscribe and like and all those things. I don't really, I mean, like I said before, I don't anticipate ever really making money doing this, but you know, it doesn't hurt to know that there's other people out there. I guess to wrap up, if there's any bands out there that give you fucking hope and excitement and joy, share them. I mean, I'd love to do another one of these if you enjoyed it. There's probably 10 more bands that I could name, you know, right now. Well, I mean, I would want to sit down and write them down and whatnot so that I don't look like a total idiot. But, yeah, just hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, I'm not really that interesting of a guy. I'm just interested in interesting things. And if I hated you, you would know.